So let's get to Baylor. Heading into 2017, there's obviously a lot of questions about Baylor. New coach in Matt Rule. He's cleaning up the program both inside, on the field, and off the field. He's got a big job ahead of him. We've got, I think, 3 things that he needs to do to succeed in 2017. The first thing is that he's got to get acquainted. The entire program has to get acquainted with one another. It is worth remembering that aside from the class that Matt Rule signed, every other player on campus signed for Art Briles. Mm-hmm. They did not sign up for Matt Rule.
Right.
It is up to Matt Rule to get those kids to buy into his system. I think it's real easy. I think it was really easy to buy into what Art Briles was selling, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, if you're a wide receiver, a wide open, offense, we're going to throw it a ton. You're going to have a lot of fun. Quarterback, absolutely. Come on down. We're going to throw it all over the field. Defense, we're going to fly around. We're going to be wide open. You're going to be playing a lot because we're going to be and so you're going to be on the field a lot. A lot of chances to make an impact. This is going to be different. Mm-hmm. Matt Rule is going to be a different coach than Art Briles. For better or for worse, he is going to be a different coach. The entire team has to be pulling the rope in the same direction. And that sounds obvious, but that's not a thing we worry about at UTSA. That's not a thing we worry about at North Texas.
Right.
And these are teams with new coaches.
Yep.
Right? But we could see that they're all pulling the rope in the same direction. That's not a thing we worry about at TCU. This team has to all pull the rope in the same direction, and it is especially critical that they do that because, as we'll get to in a moment, depth is a huge issue. And so if they start, if a guy that they're counting on is just, he's not into this, he's not into it, there is a very real chance that the guy behind him is like a true freshman.
Right.
It is critical that everybody pull the rope in the same direction at Baylor, otherwise this whole thing could go kablooey in a hurry. Mm-hmm. That's number 1. Number 2, win second down. So in a weird way, Baylor was a bad third down defense last year. 44% conversion rate, 101st in the nation. And a lot of that, again, comes to, it's when teams are not, when teams have a bad third down conversion rate, mm-hmm. It's not about third down. It's usually about what happens on first and especially second down. You have to put the team, your opponent, in a position where they're chasing the chains. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, Baylor's opponents last year were facing 3rd and 3, not 3rd and 6. And that seems like a small difference, but it's huge in the grand scheme of things. Because 3rd and 3, everything's on the table. You can run the ball, which, by the way, they were not great against the run last year. You can throw a short pass and complete it. They have to stick teams in third down and longer than 5. They have to get them in what we call passing downs.
You would think this is something especially suited to Matt Rule and his staff, considering what they did at Temple, because this is something they were excellent at.
Exactly. This was if you want to talk about what Temple did well, that was one thing they did well, was that they put you behind the chains and made you chase. Mm-hmm. Baylor's secondary last year was not bad. But any secondary is going to look bad when all the other team has to do is complete a 4-yard out.
Yeah.
That is automatic for 90% of FBS teams. They have got to win second down, and that's where I think you talk about a guy like KJ Smith. Mm-hmm. He's got to have a big year getting off the edge and getting pressure on the quarterback. Because this team was okay at sacks last year, 42nd in the nation in sack percentage. They're going to need more of that. They need more of the big plays. Yep. They need more tackles for loss. They need more plays where they're getting behind the chains. Because it's simply not, if you give their secondary a chance to make plays, they're going to make plays. But they can't make a play on 3rd and 3. That just simply can't happen. They've got to win on second down. That's the most critical down for Baylor's defense in 2017. And thirdly, spread it around. Injuries are part of football. Every team in the nation is going to have one pretty major injury. You never know where it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And some teams are more well-suited to handle it than others. Let's take the example of Texas A&M. Texas A&M is actually pretty deep. They are. You don't worry about depth. We worry maybe there's not those guys at the top end that have been those superstars that we've come to expect from Kevin Sumlin
this year.
Right.
Yeah.
There's that. But from a depth perspective, they're really okay. Let's say Kellen Mond wins the job and Kellen Mond goes down in week 1 against UCLA. They can go to Nick Starkel and feel okay about it.
Right.
Or they can go to Jake Hubenak and feel okay about
Right.
it. Right. There's some guys in the secondary that if they go down, okay, A&M can fill the gaps. Baylor can't.
Right. At the quarterback position, I feel like they can.
Sure, okay,
But
quarterback
spots,
position.
yeah, right.
But we're talking offensive line.
Right. We're talking everywhere else.
We're talking linebacker.
Yep.
We're talking secondary. And we're talking running back, too. Because running back, they've got a couple of guys. They really like JaMychal Hasty, and they really like, obviously, Terrence Williams.
Yep.
Those are the two guys. They have got to make sure that offensively they spread the ball around, not just because it's good offensive sense to offer a lot of different threats, but also because you cannot afford to have a guy take a pounding and risk an injury based on like a cumulative injury. Look, what happened last year to Seth Russell is a freak accident, right? It's a freak thing. What you can't afford is for a guy like Terrence Williams to take 20, 30 hits a game, big hits, and then all of a sudden, week 6, he's out with a concussion. That's what you can't handle because the depth simply isn't there. Right. They have got to spread the ball around for their own health because health is so critical to Baylor this year. They are very, very thin. Mm-hmm. And they are 1 or 2 major injuries away from being in a heap of trouble. More so than any other program just because they had that mass exodus. Baylor has got to stay healthy, and the best way that they can, the only thing they can control, right? The only thing they can control is spreading the ball around and making sure that it's not 1 or 2 guys who are taking the biggest beating week in and week out. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at on Baylor. They're a big mystery this year. We don't really know what to expect, but those to me are 3 things that Baylor can do that if they do them, they look like they will succeed in 2017.